everyone doing today? Okay, the slow crowd up here. The chatters, right? The people that are always talking. Happens to be my lovely husband there who's not paying attention. That's okay. That's okay. How many of you have, he is, he totally is. He had things he wanted to go to, and I was like, hey, babe, there's going to be a lot of people. You want to come support me? I'd love that. All right, so we're going to be running a 7-figure author business. Pretty excited to talk to you guys about that today. So I'm Jeanette Strode. I run Shadow Alley Press with my husband, James Hunter. We're an indie publisher, digital first, whatever, indie publishing company, whatever you want to call us. I don't like the term small press because it just kind of lumps us in with a bunch of other people. We have over 250 titles now. We publish about 50 titles a year. My husband has, I don't even know now, 40 titles out on his own. And so we're kind of simultaneously running these two different companies, the press and then his brand as well. So these are things that we do in both of those arenas that we're going to be covering today. I did update, how many of you have sat through this similar presentation before with me? Anyone? Okay, so there's a couple of people. You guys, I love you so much. You didn't get enough work the first time around. You want a longer task list. All right, I see you. The people that are gluttons for punishment. So I actually updated our numbers. At the beginning of this, I always share, and I don't know where my mouse is. I don't want to touch anything. So I always share kind of what our income breakdown is, because we have a different income breakdown than a lot of other genres. So in the past, I talked about us being like 50% audio, and that's kind of shifted for us a little bit on the press side of things. So we're more like 40% audio now through Shadow Alley, but then my husband is at 56% of our gross is from audio. So being in lit RPG, game lit, etc., those do a lot better on audio than a lot of other genres. So it's always kind of interesting to share that. Let me see. All right. So you want to make all the money, yeah? Yeah. Are we sure? Okay. All right, but do you want to do all the work? Unfortunately, it takes work, right? Like this is unfortunately not a get rich quick scheme. If you thought that's what indie publishing was, you might just want to go do something else, whatever you did before this. Might be easier, actually. My husband calls it the pain Olympics. Which is so true. Okay, so this is what we're going to cover today, but before I go through each of these, I just want to get a read on the room. So how many of you are currently making under 6 figures in your author business? Okay, perfect. Over 6 figures? Okay, so wow, that's like 50-50. Congratulations, you guys, you're doing awesome. And I know these are very big. I just turned 37, and now I'm definitely in the solidly 35 to 40 bucket, when you tick things. And I'm like, that's just not fair. I'm not in that bucket. Or sometimes it's even like 30-something to 45. I'm like, oh no. Yeah, so I know those are really big buckets. Anyone over $500,000? Oh, a couple of people, awesome. Okay, so there'll be something in here for everyone. For people that are just starting out or really just kind of trying to get to that first 6 figures, don't get overwhelmed with all of the details, right? It's in the beginning, it's really just hard work and doing the right things in your writing business to get to where you need to go. And then these are the things that are gonna help you scale up and get a team and all of those things to take you kind of to the next level. So we're gonna go over structure, business structure, roles, team, documentation, how you find the right tools for your business, key performance indicators. I don't usually like corporate speak, but KPIs, there they are. We're going to talk about IP expansion, making deals, branding, networking, finding a mentor. Okay, we're not going to cover all of this in depth because that would be like a 6-hour-long presentation or more. And then we will discuss personal life. How many of us have personal lives? Oh, good, 3 of you. I'm just kidding. There was a lot more than that. I do try to be funny, and sometimes I'm not funny. So if you could just laugh when I'm laughing at myself, that would be super helpful, okay? All right. Oh, goodness, nope, I didn't do the warning. There's a warning on this next slide. Everyone that I've ever sat through this presentation with wants to take out their little phone and take a picture of this next slide. That is not the point of this next slide. It is itty-bitty and illegible for a reason, okay? Because it's the mentality behind the next slide. So some of you are still gonna do the little, when you're trying to take a picture of someone and you don't want them to know, and you're gonna like slide your phone over, you're gonna try. Don't do that. Just take it in, okay? Okay, this is an org chart. How many of you, I see you, Brad. How many of you have org charts for you? My husband's up here taking a picture of our org chart. How many, you're so funny. I'm gonna run out of time if you keep making jokes, my friend. How many of you have org charts for your business? So a handful of you. Okay, if you don't have one, even if it's just you writing books right now, I encourage you to make one. Even if you've only written a book, this is super going to help you figure out what your process is, what all the different jobs are that go into making a book. Because even if you're a solo author, you're still running a business, right? There are still processes that go through formatting, editing, cover art, all of the things that we do to make a book good. And so in the beginning, you're gonna go through and you're gonna write out all of the things that it takes to make a book. And I'll go through what some of ours are, and then you're gonna write job descriptions for these things, because as you're leveling up, you're gonna start wanting to look for people to help you fill those roles. And if you don't know what they are, and you're like, well, I write books and I publish books. Cool, but you need to segment it more than that, otherwise you'll never be able to hire someone to help you. All right, let me make sure I'm not missing anything. It'll also help you figure out what you want help with in general. So we have a CEO, a COO, an operations manager, a marketing director, a reader experience manager. That's a new position for us. That we were able to recognize that we needed because we have an org chart and because we have job description, we could easily see, hey, we really need someone that's like in charge of our reader interactions. Who should do that? Well, it doesn't fit in any of our current job descriptions, right? It didn't fit really well with our marketing person. It didn't fit with this person. So then we were able to say, okay, I think we need to create a new position for that. We have an art director, we have a creative director, we have editors, proofreaders, formatters, audio directors, our ops manager does the audio portion as well, but you could have a separate person for that. And then we have our early reader team, right? Just to name a few. There's probably other positions, but we weren't really able to move forward until we looked at what we actually needed, right? What does it actually take to make a book, to make a product? Okay, I have a book. How many of you, I know that the people that have taken this with me before have read this, but has anyone heard of the E-Myth? So this book right here. This you can take a picture of if you need to. So it's called the E-Myth Revisited, which always confused me because it makes you think that there's a first E-Myth. I don't know why it's revisited, second edition or whatever, but this is the one that you're looking for. This book will literally take you through how to do what I just described. From the very beginning to the very end, it's going to walk you through that. And more importantly, it's going to explain why it's so important, and it's going to help you get over your fear of hiring people. How many people in here do everything and love doing everything because they like to control it all? Yes, that's why we're indie authors. That's why we're indies. Is because we want our freedom. We want to be able to control everything. But really, it slows our ascent to the top if we're not willing to learn how to train others to do the things that we don't like to do, or the things that don't make us any money, but we're still stuck doing, like formatting, right? I always use that example. It's something that my husband did for forever for us because he was so wants it perfect, wants it exactly right. You need to be able to document that, and this is what we're going to go into next, but you need to be able to document that process and do all of those things. So that book will help you walk through that whole, basically, process of doing that. So documentation, how many people in here use, okay, so I don't clarify what SOPs are, standard operating procedures, things that show people how to do a task in your business. Anyone? So once again, probably the same people that already have an org chart, right? Because those kind of go hand in hand. The minute you know what positions you have, then you're like, oh, well, now I need to know how to show people how to do this position. How many of you would love to duplicate yourself, but don't trust other people to do that? Okay, a lot of you. So the E-Myth is going, it literally opens with a pie shop and someone trying to figure out how to run their pie shop when it's just themselves, and showcases why it's so important to be able to train other people. And SOPs are the key to that. So imagine a position or a task that you know that you hate doing and you wish you could find someone else to do it. And imagine if there was literally a document that showed someone how to do it exactly the way that you want them to do, including, now I need you to double check everything. Now I need you to triple check everything, right? You can be as controlling in that document as you want. And then it also gives you freedom when someone does it wrong to say, look, this is a very documented process, what went wrong? What aren't you understanding? Rather than it just being this holy this aloof thing. I didn't even touch anything. It just aggressively came at me. Okay. Okay. I just lost my train of thought, and it just came unplugged. Maybe that's what it was my thing getting unplugged. I need a new laptop, and so if it's not plugged in, it's an ugly mess, and it will die. Okay, hopefully we don't lose that again. All right, where was I? SOPs. It doesn't need to be complex, right? I have things that are literally a video documenting me going through the process and talking to someone about the process as I go through it. I have PowerPoints that have cute arrows and things that show people, where to click and how to do whatever it is that you need to do. It could literally be, I have documents that are, for our reader experience position, where someone needs to know, how do I respond to a reader when they ask me XYZ? Here's a bunch of scripts in a document that you can read through and figure out what you need to do. So this doesn't need to be this complex, don't go down the rabbit hole and make it think, oh my gosh, I need this 10-page PowerPoint for every single one of these positions, and it's gotta be colorful and beautiful, and yeah, okay, sometimes that's fun, right? We all like our organizational beauty, but sometimes that's not necessary. The process of documentation is what's important. So I put a few things up here of things that we use to help run our business. Obviously, this is a suggestion of things that you might want to take a look at. So we have Slack that we use for communication. We use ClickUp for project management. There are a billion project management softwares out there. I would suggest you just find the one that you like. We used to use Airtable, now we're in ClickUp. Dropbox for file sharing. I know a lot of people use Google Drive. We use MailerLite for our newsletters. Adobe Sign for all of our contracts. We used to mail contracts back and forth like paper in the beginning. I don't know why that was ever a good idea. This was 8 years ago. It's not like this tech didn't exist. But Adobe Sign is or DocuSign or something like that is hugely important if you're doing a lot of documents or documentation in that way. BookFunnel's on here, Damon. It didn't used to be, which is crazy because we literally use it all the time. I know. And this time around, I was like, I feel like Damon's going to sit in my presentation. I better put it in there. So I'm glad I did. If you don't have BookFunnel, oh my gosh, what are you even doing? How many people in here have BookFunnel? Okay, perfect. Yes. It's instrumental for us to be able to get product out to readers. We use it for our art copies. We use it for giveaway copies. I use it when people are like looking for a recommendation. I'm like, here, have a free book. Like, try this one. I use it for all, everything, audio, you name it, direct sales. Like, it is phenomenal. I don't need to tell you that because I think everyone in here has it. But if you don't, get it. We use QuickBooks Online for our accounting. We have a royalty software that we had built, but if you're looking for something like that, Publish Drive has Abacus, which we also use for some of our co-authored projects. That's a pretty good system that you could check out. It does have some limitations, but for most people it's sufficient. And then we use Author Helper Suite for just a different way to look at data versus the KDP dashboard, which can sometimes be a little parceled, right? Like you have to go to different areas and like click on things, and so that helps bring it all into one place. So, all right, I'm doing good on time. This is good. Hold on, let me make sure I didn't miss one. Yep, every time I go to change my slide, I'm just gonna put my hand there. Okay, all right, KPIs. So this is what we look at. This may not be what you look at. The important part is that you guys know what your performance indicators are, what the things are that you're trying to track and look at, and that you actually track them. So we look at how many copies are sold in the first 30 days. We look at our rank on launch. Rank is a little dubious, as we all know, because it's in relation to how other books are doing, but it's still a good kind of indicator of what's going on. We look at ratings and reviews, the first month of revenue, the read-through rate for a series, our ROI on ads, mailing list growth, retention. We also look at open and click rate. So I actually was in a session at NINC earlier this year, and I had my mind kind of blown because there was someone there that shared their newsletter list and how they had curated it to where it had like a 65% open rate and like a 10% click rate. Maybe if no, that's worse. Is that better? So overall, they actually had as many people engaging as someone who maybe had a 20,000 name list that only had like, a 10% open or whatever, So it just reminded me that like, yes, you want big mailing lists, right? But it also matters significantly how those people are engaging with you. And if you have a smaller list with higher open rates, that can be as effective or more effective than having this massive list that doesn't do anything. So tracking those numbers and paying attention to that is really, really helpful. We keep an eye on our audio revenue percentage as well, just to see what's going on in the marketplace. And then as a press, we pay attention to the number of releases per month. So, we want to make sure that we have a release every month that we know is going to provide steady revenue, rather than just like throwing things at the wall. So if you're a solo author, you want to look at and know like your peaks and valleys, right? So if you know you release a book and that'll keep you for 3 to 4 months, okay, then month 5, you probably need another book to come out in that series or in another one of your best-selling series. So just be aware of like kind of what your author cycles are. And like I said, these are what we track, but there could be other metrics that you guys are tracking, reader engagement on groups or your TikTok following or we look at those things too, but that might be a higher priority for you. So just know what they are and pay attention to those. All right, this slide when I first wrote it, I had like so much information on here that you couldn't even read it all. This is a huge topic that I'm barely going to brush over just as an example of what is important. So market research and genre. I feel like this is a topic that 3-4 years ago was still very like new, this idea of researching your market and really knowing what your readers want. You can call it right to market if you want, but it's really just knowing what the readers want to read and then writing what the readers want to read. This thing is gonna make me crazy, you guys. Oh my God. Like, what the hell is going on? Thank you. I'm like, keep losing my train of thought. I don't know. Maybe it's because the little rubber pads on the bottom of my laptop are no longer. Thank you, Adam. Yay. Okay, now I can tilt this back too so I can actually see my notes. So that's obviously very important. You can't build a brand by just I guess you could have a brand as the person that throws spaghetti on the wall and see what sticks, but I don't feel like that's a very strong brand. So pay attention to what you like to read, what you love to do, and find the genre that's a good match for that. Do your research and then start to build your IP and your brand around that, right? Romance authors are like the queens of branding. So you can follow them and check out what they're doing. I mean, people, I meet authors that are like, oh yeah, I even picked my color palette, I'm purple or I'm this or I'm whatever. So do your research and find out how to build, because at the end of the day, that's what we're doing. People are buying your books, and I think as we move into the future, they're buying you, as an author. They're wanting to connect more and more with you as an author, and I think that that's the trend kind of in the industry, is not just about a single book or whatever. It's really about supporting authors. So having that brand is really important. Making deals, current deals. So this is, when you have a brand and you have enough books out, people start to come to you, right? Because the people that are out there looking to make deals, whether they're audio, TradPub, whatever, they know what they're looking for. And if you have a very clear brand and you're writing in a very clear market, they're gonna reach out to you. I mean, they just are. So I have a little note build it and they will come, right? If you build it right, people are gonna want your product. And I think that that's more true now than ever. 5 years ago in the indie space, it was still very much oh, you're an indie. We don't really wanna touch that. But now people know, right? You see the vendor hall, you see who's here, and you see who's paying attention. If you do your branding right and you build your stuff right, people will come and want to make deals with you. So just from events like this, we have 14 titles that are included in the Audible Plus program. We have many distribution agreements with audio distributors that had very nice packages attached to them. This is recorded, so I'm not going to go into details. We have some potential distribution agreements that will actually get us into bookstores that we're working on. We've partnered with Podium, Tantor, all of these amazing people. We have partnerships with other authors. My husband, just last year, we met Luke Gygax for the first time, and he's working on a co-authored project with him, which is going to be huge and amazing. And that wouldn't have happened if we hadn't spent the last 8 years, or I guess 7 years at that point, building his brand to where when someone was looking to partner, so Luke was looking to partner with someone in lit RPG or progression fantasy to do this, and my husband's name was one of the first people that came up, right? Because connections and branding. Let's see, yeah, and still we're getting partnerships on even our backlist titles, looking at hopefully a traditionally published deal, fingers crossed, right? So that we can reach out. So that isn't me being oh my God, look at all the amazing things that we've done. That's saying if you focus and you do the right things and you build your brand and you build your books, all of those things are on the table for anyone, right? It's something that anyone can do. All right, I still am good, okay. Networking and finding a mentor. This is another thing that's really, really crucial. Probably one of the most important things that you can do to help you grow your company, grow your brand, even get better as a writer. The COVID years, we call it the before times and the after times, but the during times, right, when everything was going on, it was incredibly, our business really suffered from that because we weren't able to get out and meet with people, right? And network and make connections. Like everything was just shut down. And we really realized how important conferences and conventions are for meeting readers, connecting with friends. Kind of like this conference for us is huge because we get to come and we get to see all of our friends and like hang out and remember why we do what we do, right? Because being an author is, and running a company, like it can be really lonely, even though you're like surrounded by people and readers and whatever, conventions are important for that. All right, whew, y'all. Whew. Anyone else ever presented before? I get tired by this point. No. All right, let's keep this going. I haven't asked you guys a question in a while, so I'm going to ask some questions here. So how many of you have done mentorships or coaching or anything like that? Oh, quite a few. That's great. It's pretty important to kind of help you make sure you're on top of did I just say kind of important? It's really important to help you stay on top of what's going on in the marketplace and be able to learn new skills. So I kind of say that not knowing something should never be an excuse. You should never be like, oh, well, I'd really love to do TikTok, but I don't know what I'm doing over there, so I'm just not gonna do it. There's so much information out there. I mean, YouTube, right? Go on YouTube, find a coach, find a mentor, read a book. Masterminds have been really huge for me, so finding other people like yourself. I've done paid masterminds. I've done, all sorts of things to help me kind of stay on top of what's going on. All right, let's see. I want to make sure. Some of my notes are scrollable, which if you ever present, I would not suggest doing that. I would even say that like every one of our, would you agree with this, babe, that every one of our like most important business interactions or deals or whatever has come from like directly related to a conference? Yeah, because you can't, it's very hard to make deals if you're not sitting across the table with people face to face. I feel like I'm harping on that, but maybe that's even more for virtual attendees, right? Being in person is really important because you guys are obviously already here and doing that, and yeah. Yeah, he said 60% of our authors we also met at conventions. So for us, it's like a huge deal to be present. Back in the day, we met Michael Anderle for the first time at a convention in Boston, where we happened to be at a party where he was at, and the fire alarm went off, and we all had to like evacuate, and we ended up sitting in a stairwell with him for like 4 hours. And we had gone to this convention specifically with the intention of meeting him, which in hindsight is really funny because like now I can just like talk to him whenever. But back then we were like, oh my gosh, it's Michael Anderle. We have to go meet him. We have to go, find a way to interact with him. And so yeah, we flew there and ended up having this amazing time. That's also a showcase of, if there's something out there, if there's someone you want to meet, you guys, like don't be afraid. Go do whatever you have to do to meet the person that you know is going to help take you to the next level. Because yeah, that was like a life-changing, it changed our whole trajectory of our whole everything. So thank you, Michael. And thank you, Fire Alarm at the Boston whatever hotel that was. Yeah, which of us pulled the fire alarm? If we had not been on like the 13th floor and had to run down all those stairs, I would definitely say that it was one of us. But no, it's a lot of stairs to run down. Maybe if you're on like the third or fourth. No, I'm just kidding. That's illegal. Don't do it. But also, there's, how many of you have taken advantage of the people that are here from Amazon, Audible, etc.? Okay, how many? Okay, hands down. Now, how many of you were scared to talk to them? Yes, you do it scared, right? We do it scared. You do it anyway, because you never know what's going to come from. Lots of money and opportunity come from those relationships, right? So don't be afraid to go talk to them. Some of the top people from those companies are here, and you wouldn't know that. I know that, but go talk and mingle and interact. They're still here. I mean, ACX and Audible and KDP are like sitting in there, literally, oh my God, they're gonna get so mad at me because they're gonna be like, after your presentation, everyone came to talk to us. But they're in there right now, right? Go meet people. All right, personal life. How many of us struggle with this? Yeah, for us, 2018 was the awakening. We were working all the time and really not in healthy ways. My husband would work overnight all the time. We worked harder on our business than I think we'd ever done on anything else in our entire life, and it was awful. I know that you guys went through a similar journey of like just working all the time, thinking that we have to just grind to get everything done. But the truth is that you have to prioritize you. If your health goes to hell, your work is going to suffer as well. Your relationships are going to suffer. Everything is going to suffer. So finding time to exercise, eat well, do things that make you happy. How many of us don't remember what those are? Yeah, I know, no one raised their hand except for one person, but I know there's other ones of you that are like, if I was sitting idle, I would know what to do if it wasn't work, right? Like we struggle with that idea of where do I go from here? How do I relax? How do I have fun? So find those things again. I always say this and people get a little like weird, but I don't really believe in like balance. You know, you hear people talking like balancing work and home and whatever. I think that's like total BS. I don't think that there's really balance. I think that there's priorities, and priorities can shift over time. So there'll be times that James and I are like right now till the end of the year, he's in crunch time because he has 2 projects that like he has to get done. And so I know that I'm going to be pulling a lot more of family time, right? Like that's going to fall a lot more on me. And so just knowing that like we have the ability to make our own schedules and paying attention to what we need in that moment, whether it's work or whether you feel like you need to exercise or whatever, paying attention to what our bodies need like right now or what our business needs right now is really important, and then making sure to schedule that right away. So sometimes I'll be sitting there and I'm like, oh man, I really need to work out. Oh, I guess I'll go to the gym tomorrow, right? Or, man, I really feel like I need to walk. I guess I'll schedule a walk tomorrow. But your body's telling you need it right now, right? So go do it like right now. Like don't keep putting off what you need. If you're feeling burnt out and like you need a break from work, like schedule it as quickly as possible, right? Because a month from now, like who knows how you're going to be feeling. I mean, how many people in here from one day to the next, I mean, maybe this is just me, but I vary in like how I'm feeling, right? And what I need one day might not be the same. The next day I might be like, sure, let's work 12 hours and I'll be totally happy and fine. But today I feel totally like exhausted. So paying attention to that and giving yourself what you need is important. All right, let me make sure. Schedule. Oh yeah. So I talked a little bit about schedule. How many of you guys are really diligent with blocking your time, or you know your schedule, you know when you're most productive, all of those things? Okay, so a handful of you. So start paying attention to that. So I know my best time is in the morning. So I don't ever take meetings in the morning, right? Like I just don't. All of my meeting time is in the afternoon. And then every Friday I actually have it blocked off. Are you okay down there? I know you're not about to yawn in my presentation. Really? I'm just giving you crap. I know, you're distracting me. So Friday I have blocked off completely as what I call a personal day. I more often than not end up working it, but mentally it gives me the space to know, like, if I've had a really long, hard week and Friday comes and I need a break, I can take it. Right? I don't have to push myself. Honestly, usually that gives me the freedom to work more, and then I'm happier. But just knowing what we need and then building a schedule around that is really, really helpful. I mean, how many of us got into this business because we're like, sweet, I can make my own life? Right? How many of us don't actually do that? How many of us work more and more crazy than we did when we had jobs? A lot of us, yeah, I see like big hands in the back. So if you have the freedom to make your schedule, like let's actually do it, right? All right. Let's see. I got lost on my notes. Sorry. Yeah, there's going to be some time for questions. Don't worry. All right. Okay, so I'm going to do something I've never done before, and I'm going to do all the things wrong, okay? You ready? Here's me doing all the things wrong, because you're not supposed to say any of this. I am going to offer a Q&A next week, because people always come up to me after all of these sessions, every time I do this, and they want time on my calendar, and I love helping people, and I love giving back, but the truth is I am really swamped with what I already currently do, running a business, having a family, running my husband's brand, and so I decided to just suck it up and do a live Q&A on Zoom. It's going to be a 2-hour thing, and I'm going to offer it to you guys. There's 100 spots, and yeah, so I'm going to put a QR code up there. I am charging for it. I don't want to charge a lot. This is really just because I need to be able to protect my time, but still want to be able to offer people things. So there's a QR, there's a URL. I love giving help and giving back to people. So if you have questions, when you go on there, it is limited to the first 100 people. So I've literally never offered something like this before. So there's that. I will walk through anything and everything in this presentation or more. Like any question that you have, I'm happy to answer it, especially because it won't be recorded or presented anywhere. I'll be much more free with any questions that you have or how we got anything that we got. And then on the sign-up page, you'll see there's a place for questions. So I'm going to switch to some questions here, but we won't get through them all. So any question that you have, pop it in there, and then before we hop on, I'll make sure to pare down what everyone has and make sure that we get all the questions answered. And I don't know, I've been talking about doing coaching for a while, but I'm scared to death of it. So maybe I'll even decide to do some coaching as well. All right, so there's that. Everyone get what they need there. I'll go back to that at the end. But let's go ahead and I don't need to have the question screen up. I'll leave that. But anyone that has questions, we've got just like 5-6 minutes left. There's a mic there, so you guys can grab that. And I'm super excited to be able to answer like all of these questions in depth, because this 45 minutes really is not enough time to do all of this. Yes.
So you're talking about the org chart. When you decide that you need to hire out, where do you start? What positions do you start with first, and how do you make that decision in terms of like opportunity cost?
Yeah, that's a great question. That I normally talk about and didn't today because my laptop kept like flying off. So how do you decide what to hire? So you look for things that are not income generating, so things that are not actively making you money. You look for things that you don't like to do, and those should be the first things that you hire out. So if you're like, oh my gosh, I absolutely hate making graphics for all of my social media, like cool, go document what you need and then go hire that position out. Yeah, does that answer? Okay, yeah.
When you mentioned before about masterminds, do you have any particular ones that you recommend? Because obviously there's going to be different levels. So at your level, the masterminds that you would be in wouldn't be suitable for somebody at a lower level. So,
yep.
Or like earlier in their career, I guess. Do you have any recommendations for masterminds, or like how you found the ones that had such an influence for you?
Yeah, so the current mastermind that I'm in is actually not an indie publishing mastermind at all. It's a business mastermind. So the process that I went through is literally I just found people that I liked to listen to and to train from. And most gurus, coaches, whatever out there offer some type of class, webinar, program. And so I just kind of kind of find the people that are speaking to my heart and like whatever. And that's how I've gone from there. I've been in indie masterminds as well. And that's just happened like naturally. I know a friend or someone who's gonna do it. And yeah, but I would start with, honestly, there's so much information outside of the indie publishing arena that's really good for business. And that's kind of where I would start. So yeah.
Thanks, this was really fun. 2 questions on metrics. One, how do you think about which metrics are right for the business? And then 2, how frequently do you look at them? Which ones do you look at daily, weekly, monthly, or whatever?
Yeah. So how do you know, which metrics are important? So that really depends on like what your goals are, right? Like if your goals are to focus on growing your readership, you better be tracking how many readers you have and where, right? Like how many followers you have on social media, how many people you have on your mailing list, what are your efforts to help grow that? If you're focused on, selling this specific product, then you better be really honed in on where are my ads, what's my ROI, how much are we spending? So it really, I guess that goes back to what you're focused on, right? You have to have something that is your main primary focus and then secondary focus, and then look at what the KPIs or whatever it is that you're looking at are important for. So like our press, a lot of those things are things that we look at for our company in general, and we kind of have to keep our finger on the pulse of all of those things. But with James's stuff, I look at things very specifically with products, even more than just brand. I look at how a specific product is doing or what our goals are for that specific series. So yeah, and then your second question is how often I check. That depends on what the KPI is. So rank on launch day, how many of us check that with an F5? Right? Yeah, like 1,000 times a day. You probably don't need to do that, but I know we all do, so let's just all admit it and move on. Other things you might be able to check every month, right? Or every 6 months. Read through. It doesn't make sense to calculate all the time because the data is not going to change. But if you have a series that has a new launch, then maybe wait 3 months and check that. So that's really going to depend on what the metric is. And I think each individual metric, if you look at it, you'll kind of figure out when the data might be changing and when it might be good to look at that data again. Does that make sense? Cool. All right. Do we have any online questions? Do we have any other questions? Oh man, I did such a good job. No one has questions? Oh, okay. Go ahead, Lydia. Run.
I'm sorry, I was networking with a really awesome person at the beginning of your presentation, so I missed the beginning.
That's great. That's what you should be doing.
Yeah, sorry. But I know you said you block off Friday for personal time. Mm-hmm. Do you have any rule over the weekend that's like, no working on the weekend, that's family time? And how do you, as a mom, how do you balance work versus relationships with your kids, in the sense that, as indies, we know maybe it's right for you to be like, I will not work, I will not spend a single second Saturday working, it's all for my kids. Or you might be like, hey, here's this time I'm gonna spend with my kids, but if I need to go take care of something over lunchtime, that's okay. I mean, how do you, I know you're not a fan of balance,
yeah.
But how do you work that relationship, or what things have you learned over the years that work well to keep that relationship? Because my kids are little right now, and I don't wanna miss that.
Yeah. So for me, there's a lot of intuition that goes into this. And this is why balance is not in my vocabulary, because some weekends I feel like as a mom, all I want to do is be with my kids. And guess what? That's what I'm going to do. There better be, if it's something that has to be done, it better be like a fire alarm level of needing to be done, right? And then there's other weekends where I'm like, you know what? We just spent a week at the beach together or whatever. I literally don't want to see my kids' faces right now, right? So then I'm gonna find a way to do the things that I need to do. So it's really paying attention to how you're feeling about needing time with your kids or not needing time with your kids. We work most Saturdays. Our kids go to our in-laws to see, grandparents and hang out. But yeah, just being aware of what's going on and what you feel like you need is, and I know that's a little woo-woo, just pay attention to your feelings. But really, you have to pay attention to what your mind and your body is telling you that you need. And there may be times that your kids really need you and you're not interested, and you still then have to kind of make room for that as well. So yeah. Cool. Well, I have 30 seconds left. But go ahead. Oh, I just saw. Yes, go ahead. What do you got?
So for myself, my first book just launched today. So
Woo! Congratulations.
thank you. So I'm nowhere near the level that most people are. So my question would be, how could I, because I'm juggling a 40-hour-a-week job,
Yep.
which is already stressful,
Yep.
on top of trying to find time to write and manage the business.
Yep.
So what would be the best strategy for myself, knowing that I can't hire any of these jobs out right now?
My question would be, why can't you hire them out?
Financial. I don't have a marketing budget as of this moment.
Okay. So you have to pick and choose what you have time for, and you have to be a stickler for your schedule. Always prioritize your writing, because getting more books out right now is the most important thing that you can do. It's the biggest marketing that you can do for your current book is your next one. So none of this is going to come into play for a little while, but I would encourage you, and I should have said this in my presentation, but hiring someone to do tasks is not nearly as expensive as you think that it is, because we blow up these tasks in our mind as this huge thing, and it might take someone literally an hour a week to do this job that is just circling in your brain. So for a few $100s a month or something, you would be able to hire someone to help you. That still might not be where you're at, but I just want to encourage you that if you think you need help, it's not as far off as you think it might be. But just right now would be focusing on writing the next book.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, for myself, I know social media would be huge for me, but I just feel like I don't have the time to focus on
For sure.
that on top of everything else.
Yeah. So I still encourage you to write down the positions so that you know, like, when you can hire, what you would want to look at first. Yeah. Cool. Oh, we're done. You guys are awesome. Thank you.